Hello and welcome to today's class where we'll be doing morning yoga. So a sequence that's perfect for first thing in the morning. If you're feeling a little bit stiff, a little bit tight, a little bit tired, we'll get moving and we'll get feeling much better. So let's start by sitting cross-legged, nice and tall. Let's have the palms facing up on the knees, and on an inhale, sit up nice and tall. On an exhale, closing the eyes. Don't fall asleep. We're doing some breathing. So all yogic breathing through the nose, taking deep inhales through the nose and nice big exhales through the nose. Just at your own pace, breathing fully and completely. So at the top of each inhalation, see if you can take an extra sip of air, feeling a gentle stretch of the lungs. And at the bottom of every exhalation, see if you can squeeze out that last puff of air, making room for fresh new air to enter. We'll just do a few rounds here. So keep going at your own pace, getting those muscles lots of oxygen before we get started. And then return the breathing to normal. We'll allow the body to get acclimatized to all that oxygen. Hopefully it wakes us up a little bit. And slowly open the eyes. And we'll get moving a little bit, starting with the neck and shoulders. We'll do a few head rolls. Let's tilt the head, right ear towards right shoulder. And then tuck the chin, allow the head to drop, left ear to left shoulder, and lift the chin, completing a nice big circle with the head. And again, number 2, so nice and slow, big circle, and all the way around. Last one. And when that circle's complete, floating the head to neutral, and we'll head in the other direction. So left ear, left shoulder, tucking the chin, right ear, right shoulder, and lifting the chin. Number 2, so nice and slow. And all the way around. Last one. And when you're done floating the head to neutral, we'll head into some arm circles. So let's lean over onto the left hand, extend the right arm out to the side, and keep the shoulders square as you bring the right arm back a little bit, up, and all the way around. So we're making a nice big circle with the arm without moving the shoulders. So the arm is moving in the shoulder socket. Number 2. Reaching out, even back a little, all the way over and around. Last one. Nice big circle, getting that full range of motion. And belly scoops in, floating up and into the other side. Reaching out, even back a little, all the way over and around. Again, out and back, all the way over and around. One more, reaching out and back, all the way over and around. Belly scoops in as you float up, back to neutral. And we'll get moving with the legs too. So let's head into our first downward facing dog, where we'll head into hands and knees. And before we head into downward dog, I like to just take a few moments in hands and knees position, just rocking side to side. Weight moves to the right side and to the left. and to the right, and to the left. And then we'll tuck the toes under, maybe even sitting back onto the heels. It's like we're going into downward dog, but we're taking our time getting there. Finding all these tiny little stretches along the way, and then pressing the hips up and back all the way to a big V. And then from here in your downward dog, taking some time to maybe walk the dog. So one heel gently lowers down to the ground as the opposite leg bends. And then switch. Other heel lowers down towards the floor. And keep going, just alternating nice and slow as we wake everything up, taking our time. And then let's find some stillness. So both heels lower down towards the floor equally. And then let's take a little bend to the knees and reach the heart towards the feet. So finding a shoulder stretch. And then send the feet forward all the way to the top of your mat, landing in a forward fold so the feet are parallel. And we're allowing the neck to soften. Finding a nice stretch in the backs of the legs. If that's too intense though, as the mornings can sometimes be, gentle stretch in the back of the legs will bend the knees. Makes it a little more gentle. If you're not feeling too much of a stretch, you can straighten through the legs. And then we'll slowly ragdoll up to standing one vertebra at a time. So one vertebra stacks on top of the other, on top of the other, on top of the other. Taking your time all the way up to standing, and we'll get moving a little bit more. So we'll head into just one nice and gooey sun salutation A. Starting up at the top of your mat, feet together, big toes together, heels together. Standing up tall, belly scoops in. Here we go. Let's inhale, raise the arms way up high. And taking a moment here, feel that big stretch, reaching the arms super duper high, getting taller. And on an exhale, gliding forward. So hinge at the hips, nice long spine, all the way down, taking your time as you reach for those toes. Maybe the fingertips reach the earth, maybe not. Doesn't matter. Feeling that length throughout the whole back body. Looking up to the horizon for flat back, so palms to shins, lengthening through the backs of the legs. You might want to keep that little bend to the knees if it's too much. So nice and gentle. And release. Bend the knees, plant the hands slightly wider than shoulders width apart. Send the feet back to a strong plank, so belly scoops in our plank. And then for chaturanga, extra challenge, keep those legs straight. I like to gently lower the knees to my mat, especially for morning yoga. So whichever your choice, find it and pull the belly in, and then lowering to a low push-up position with the triceps, so elbows are tucked in tight to your sides. And then releasing all the way down. From here, heading into cobra, so we peel the chest off the floor. And if you want to add that little extra stretch, pressing into the palms gently until you feel a little stretch. Maybe the arms go all the way straight, maybe not, doesn't matter. And you're feeling a gentle stretch in the back, but also maybe in the tummy as well. Gently lifting the chin. And then slowly, slowly release. From here, pressing up and back to downward dog once again. So belly scoops in, strong arms press you up through hands and knees. Tuck the toes under, hips press up and back to that big V downward facing dog. And then maybe walking it out again if you want to. If you're feeling like stillness is more beneficial or just nicer, feel free to hold it steady. I like walking the dog my first 2, maybe 3 downward dogs of the day. Nice and gentle. And then send the feet forward all the way to the top of your mat, landing with the feet together, heels and toes, looking up to the horizon for flat back. And on an exhale, forward fold. On an inhale, come on all the way up, reaching up high, getting taller. And release back to a tall mountain pose. So from here, we'll do half a salutation. So we'll inhale, arms go up. On an exhale, gliding forward, nice and smooth. Inhale, looking up. Exhale. From here, bend the knees, plant the hands, and we'll step back directly to downward facing dog. So it's just kind of part of a salutation, more of a little flow to get to downward facing dog. From here, a really nice movement, especially first thing in the morning, three-legged down dog. So it doesn't have to be spectacular, it doesn't have to be full splits. All we're doing is transferring the weight onto that left leg. So the heel is lowering down towards the earth on the left side. The right leg extends up towards the sky, nice and smooth, nice and gentle, taking your time. And then step the right foot forward behind the right wrist. We're preparing for warrior one. So we'll spin the back heel down towards the ground. I like to, right from here, kind of lift and scooch my foot towards the outside edge of the mat. So I get a nice wide stance here. And then my back leg is straight, my front leg is bent. Come on up for a nice and gooey warrior one. So I'm trying to draw that right hip back, back, back. And the feet are flat on the floor. So pinky toes on the floor, trying to get that right knee directly above the ankle and then reach the arms up, bending through that front leg. And we just hold here for a bit as things open up, feeling that stretch in the back hip, maybe looking up to the thumbs. From here, let's open up, turning shoulders and hips towards the long edge of your mat so we can shuffle the feet so that we have a heel to arch alignment. So my front heel, my right heel, if there was a line all the way to the back of the mat, it would intersect the left arch. So lifting up nice and tall on an inhale, arms in a T position. On an exhale, bending through that front knee. So the knee is right above the ankle. And then we're looking beyond the right fingertips. Holding here. So if we want to do a little alignment check, which is always fun to do in the morning, hips are nice and even, so we don't want to tilt one way or the other. And we're not leaning forward or back with the body or the arms. So completely shoulders above the hips and looking beyond the front fingertips. From here, we'll head into extended side angle. So right forearm rests on the right thigh, and then top arm alongside the top ear, bending deep. If you know and love side angle bound, feel free to head into that or just stay here. Or you can place the bottom hand on the floor if you know and love that variation. Otherwise, hold here. Or bound is the bottom arm goes behind and the hands meet behind the hips. Either variation, whoa, that was a blooper. Either variation, opening up, heart to the sky. And then slowly, slowly, come on up, back through warrior two, and straightening through the legs. So you might be feeling some warmth already. We're trying to have kind of a relaxed feeling, preparing for triangle pose. So my stance is a bit too wide for triangle, so I'm going to shorten up the stance a little bit. Still heel to arch alignment. Arms up into a T position. And then reaching, reaching, reaching. So keeping the legs straight as possible. It's like the legs are stuck in mud. And we're reaching, reaching, reaching. And then tipping, tipping, tipping. So right hand to the right shin. I like to start with my top arm behind my back. And what it does is it helps you to open up because there's a tendency to kind of collapse in your triangle. So opening up, try to get your left shoulder or top shoulder stacked on top of the bottom, and then extend the top arm high to the sky. A few deep breaths here. So if this is really, really intense, then instead of the hand on the ankle, bring it up a little bit higher, right below the knee, or even above the knee, just not right on the knee. It should feel like a nice gentle stretch. From here, belly scoops in, come on all the way up. And then we'll head down through lunge, so hands framing the front foot, and then we'll step it back to downward facing dog for a few moments. If you're like, no, this feels like gymnastics already, then let's take an even nicer break. So gently lowering through hands and knees and all the way back to child's pose for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. We'll all meet back together in downward facing dog, preparing for the second side. So this time left leg sweeps to the sky as the right heel gently lowers down towards the floor. Maybe it's there, maybe it's not. And then step that left foot forward behind the left wrist. Back heel spins down towards the ground. I like to widen my stance right here. And then we come on up as we draw the left hip back, 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 trying to have hips square to the front and bending through that front leg. Holding here, breathing deep. And trying to feel that stretch in the back hip. Strengthen the front leg. And then we'll open up to face the long edge of our mat. So other side for warrior 2, shuffling the feet as needed so that you find that heel to arch alignment where the left heel intersects the right arch. And again, trying to check that the shoulders are over top of the hips. And we're looking beyond the front fingertips. And then preparing for extended side angle. So same variation as the first side, either having the forearm on the thigh, or maybe we're binding so the bottom arm goes beneath and we find the hands behind us, opening up, heart towards the sky. And then slowly, slowly coming back through warrior 2, straightening that front leg, taking a second. I like to rest the arms for a second. And then this feels like too long of a stance, so shortening up the stance a bit, preparing for triangle pose. So arms are in a T position, and then the legs are stuck in mud, they're straight. We reach, 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 and then placing the bottom hand right onto the shin. Be sure there is a little bit of weight into that bottom hand. We can start with the arm behind. I just was noticing I'm caving in a little bit, so I like to bend the arm just to remind my body to open up. And then top arm to the sky. And breathing deep. Belly scoops in, come on all the way up. And then we'll head down through lunge, so framing that front foot, and then stepping it up and back to downward facing dog or child's pose. So depending on how much energy you're feeling this morning, we want to make it just slightly challenging, not too much. Wherever you're at, down dog or child's pose, hanging out here for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. And we'll all meet together in downward facing dog. From here, May as well take a three-legged down dog. So right leg extends, lifting it up and back. And then we'll step the right foot forward between the hands. You might need to help it forward, lifting up the foot or scooching it forward. Gently lower the back knee onto your mat or maybe a blanket or a cushion, something to protect the back knee. And then let's place the hands on the front knee. So feeling a nice stretch in the hip flexor, lifting up tall, hanging out here for maybe 5 deep breaths-ish. We like to count by breaths as opposed to seconds often because it reminds us to breathe. Sometimes in class a teacher will say, breathing deep for 1, and I was like, oh yeah, I wasn't breathing there. Reminder. We tend to hold a stretch and we'll go and just kind of hold our breath. So reminder to breathe. It gets our muscles oxygen. From here, we'll head into a twist. So the palms are together and we'll clip the left elbow over the right knee. I like to release the hands though and help the elbow across the knee and then replace the hands as we lengthen the spine first and then open up the heart towards the sky. So lengthening the spine. And I like to visualize a washcloth when I do spinal twists. So the majority of the twist, just like a cloth that you're wringing out, is in the middle. So just like that cloth, the mid back is twisting the most, and then a little bit of a twist in the low back and the neck. And then slowly squaring it back up. Either stay here or optional, a little bit more intense for the front side of the back leg. Placing the left hand down onto the floor. So we want the weight to be forward, 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 and then pop the back toes off the floor and see if you can find those toes with the opposite hand. Gently, gently, if this is enough of a stretch, stay here or draw the foot towards the hip. So this stretch is actually pretty intense, especially first thing in the morning. So trying to make it gentle, not forcing anything. We're not holding this super long either. We'll slowly release and heading up and back to downward dog once again. So upsy daisies, here we go, back to down dog. And things feel looser already. So left leg extends for that three-legged down dog, preparing for the second side. And then stepping that left foot forward for our low lunge posture. Then gently lowering your back knee onto your mat or something squishy. Come on up and just hanging out here for a little bit in our low lunge, remembering to breathe. Slow, deep inhales through the nose. Nice and slow exhales through the nose. And then we'll add in our twist. So hands in a prayer. This time right elbow crosses over left knee. And then lengthening the spine first and then opening up. Heart to the sky. And slowly returning to center, either staying here or optional, right hand to the floor, leaning forward, 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 pop the back toes off the floor, see if you can find those toes with the opposite hand. Gently drawing the foot in towards the hip. Couple deep breaths, not here too long. And release. Heading up and back to downward dog. Last downward dog of the day. So maybe feeling that shoulder stretch by reaching the heart towards the feet. Heels lengthening down towards the floor. And from here, gently lower through hands and knees. And then we'll head all the way down to the floor onto our backs, preparing for either bridge pose or upward facing bow, depending on how ambitious you're feeling this morning. So upward facing bow, if you haven't learned that in class before, then just do the first variation. So first variation, we're all the way down onto our backs, bend the knees with the feet on the floor, just slightly wider than hips width apart. Palms facing down, arms along the sides, and we'll lift the hips up to the sky. Either hold here, or if you want to head into upward facing bow, same starting position for the feet, and the hands are beneath the shoulders, not the neck. So this is not a full and complete tutorial. This is just if you already know this pose. And then we lift up, perhaps onto the top of the head, pausing here. And when you're ready, straightening through the arms into upward facing bow, either here or in bridge pose for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. And gently lowering all the way down. And once you've arrived, hips to the floor, hug the knees in for Apanasana, knees to chest pose, maybe even rocking side to side. And then preparing for a nice spinal twist. So from here, we'll place the feet onto the floor, arms in a T position, palms facing down. Lift and scooch the hips to the right. And from mild twist, send both knees over to the left, but be sure that the knees are straight out from the hips, if not slightly up towards that left elbow. If you want a more intense stretch, feel free to cross the leg all the way over for twisted roots. Either way, we want to stack the hips right on top of the left, in line with the sternum and the neck, with the shoulders on the floor. Most important, keep those shoulders on the floor. And relax. Softening into it. To come out, scoop the belly in and gently press the low back into the floor. Unraveling, unwinding, squaring everything up. And then between sides, we'll hug the knees in. Maybe a little rock side to side once again for Apanasana. And preparing for the same variation on the second side. So arms in a T position, palms facing down. We lift and scooch the hips to the left and send the knees over to the right. So same version as the first side. Be sure both shoulders are on the floor. If you did the twisted roots, feel free to cross those legs all the way over. And then looking over to the left. That left shoulder will want to pop up off the floor. Don't let it. And to come out, scoop the belly in, press the low back into the floor, unravel, unwind, squaring everything up, and then hug both knees into your chest, gently rocking side to side for Apanasana. And that's it, that's all. Preparing for final resting pose, Shavasana. So if your back requires a little extra support today, feel free to keep the knees bent with the feet on the floor and allow the knees to tip in towards each other. Otherwise, extend the legs on the ground and the arms along your sides, palms facing up, and closing the eyes. Softening everything, but especially through the neck and the shoulders, and all the way down the arms, letting the fingers softly curl, softening through the face, softening around the eyes, and even the muscle between the eyes. Just letting it all go, finding that space between really awake and alert and asleep. That relaxed state where your body can create that muscle memory. But we're not here long. Starting to come back, wiggle the fingers and the toes, and gently roll your head from side to side. And reaching your arms above head on the floor for a big stretch, feeling totally refreshed. Then bending your knees in one at a time, gently roll over to your right side and pause there for a moment as you come back. And then slowly start to press yourself all the way up to a comfortable cross-legged seated position, taking all the time you need. But when you arrive, palms facing up on the knees, inhale, sitting up tall, and exhale, softly close the eyes. And taking those final moments to thank yourself for showing up to your practice today and taking care of you. And slowly open the eyes. Namaste, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today. Have a really good rest of your day, and I'll see you next time.